Chapter 39. With a firm grip on his keys, Adelmo noticed the small flashlight attached to the keychain. Curiosity piqued, he swiftly turned it on, illuminating the dimly lit staircase before him. As the light danced across the steps, his assumption of the stairs leading downwards was confirmed. Determined to explore further, he cautiously descended, his eyes darting around in search of any clues as to where this mysterious path would lead him. The descent seemed never-ending, each step echoing in the silence, until a glimmer of hope appeared in the distance. A faint light beckoned him forward, casting a warm glow against the cold stone walls. However, a sense of trepidation crept into his mind, as he couldn't help but wonder what awaited him at the end of this enigmatic journey. As Adelmo drew closer to the source of light, he instinctively slowed his pace, his heart pounding in his chest. Every footstep was carefully measured, as if he were treading on fragile glass. The anticipation grew with each passing moment, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was intruding upon something sacred. Peering around the corner, he was met with a sight that left him utterly bewildered. Instead of the expected darkness or an exit to the outside world, he found himself facing what appeared to be an ancient church. The flickering candlelight danced upon the stained glass windows, casting vibrant hues across the worn pews and weathered stone walls. Adelmo's mind raced with questions, struggling to comprehend how he had stumbled upon such a hidden sanctuary in the depths of the staircase. Suddenly, Adelmo's eyes snapped open, his confusion lingering from the vivid dream that had just played out in his mind. Disoriented, he scanned his surroundings, only to find himself still surrounded by the dense foliage of the forest. The chirping of birds and rustling of leaves filled the air, a stark contrast to the eerie silence of the dream. As he tried to make sense of the strange sequence of events, a sense of unease settled upon him. Was it just a dream, or was there a deeper meaning behind it? Adelmo couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something more to discover, something hidden within the depths of the forest that awaited his exploration. With a renewed sense of curiosity, he resolved to uncover the truth that lay beyond the realm of dreams. Day 9. Adelmo groaned as he slowly regained consciousness, his head throbbing from the impact of running into the tree. As he lay on the ground, he took a moment to collect himself and assess the situation. Confusion washed over him as he struggled to distinguish between the hazy remnants of his dream and the reality he now found himself in. With a determined frown, he pieced together the fragments of his memory, finally grasping the truth. Pushing himself up from the ground, Adelmo dusted off his clothes and began his journey back to his grandfather's house. The path seemed unfamiliar, and he couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that he had taken a wrong turn somewhere. His mind raced, desperately trying to recall the correct route. Lost in thought, he suddenly caught sight of a house in the distance. A glimmer of hope flickered within him as he quickened his pace, hoping that it was indeed his grandfather's house. As Adelmo approached the house, relief washed over him like a warm embrace. The familiar structure stood before him, a beacon of familiarity in the midst of his confusion. However, his excitement was short-lived as he realized the door was locked. Disappointment etched across his face. He reasoned that it must still be early and the door had been locked since the previous night. Determined not to be deterred, he rapped his knuckles against the door, his heart pounding with anticipation, hoping that someone would answer and provide him with the answers he sought. After knocking on the door for what felt like an eternity, a weary Adelmo was relieved when a man finally answered. However, to his surprise, the man seemed unfamiliar with his presence. Doubt crept into Adelmo's mind as he questioned whether he had made a wrong turn. "Is this really my grandfather's house?" he pondered, feeling a wave of confusion wash over him. The situation seemed to be spiraling out of control, leaving Adelmo feeling lost and disoriented. Seeking some clarity, Adelmo mustered the courage to inquire about his grandfather's whereabouts, mentioning the name Nicoletta Alexandru. The response he received was far from comforting, as the person's tense demeanor only added to the mounting confusion. "No, this isn't your grandfather's house," they replied curtly, their words hanging in the air. However, they did possess some knowledge about his grandfather's whereabouts, pointing towards the northwest of the house and indicating that he lived in that direction, nearly a mile away. Grateful for the small piece of information he had received, Adelmo thanked the stranger and began his journey towards the northwest. As he walked, his mind raced with thoughts about the peculiar events of the night. The dreams he had been experiencing lately seemed to intertwine with the unsettling encounter at the door. Adelmo couldn't help but wonder why a simple question about his grandfather's house had elicited such a tense response. The more he dwelled on it, the more perplexed he became, desperately trying to unravel the enigma that had enveloped him. As he finally arrived at his grandfather's house, Adelmo's heart raced with anticipation. He reached out to try the door, and to his surprise, it swung open effortlessly. Stepping inside, he was immediately struck by a sense of emptiness that permeated the house. The air felt still, and the silence was almost deafening. It was as if the walls themselves held the weight of memories long gone. Curiosity led Adelmo to wander into the kitchen, where he found his grandfather sitting at the table, engrossed in his morning routine. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the room, mingling with the scent of newsprint. Adelmo couldn't help but smile as he approached his grandfather, who looked up from his newspaper with a warm, familiar gaze. The wrinkles on his face told stories of a lifetime, and his eyes sparkled with a mix of surprise and joy. After exchanging greetings, Adelmo's grandfather couldn't help but express his concern. "Where have you been all night? I noticed you didn't come home," he asked, his voice filled with a mixture of worry and relief. Adelmo, still catching his breath from the night's adventure, eagerly shared his tale. He recounted how he had stumbled upon a mysterious cave in the forest, his heart pounding with trepidation. The mention of vampires and werewolves sent a shiver down his spine, but he mustered the courage to explore further. However, his fear got the better of him, and he found himself running blindly through the cave, only to collide with a tree in the darkness. And so, he had spent the entire night out there, lost in the wilderness.